Good morning. Good morning. We are just waiting for Instagram to show up. We will survive until it gets here. And then once it does, we will officially begin this week's episode of the podcast. And I'm really excited about the topic because it's something we could all really use. Okay, here comes Instagram. Okay, we are live everywhere. So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of DIY Wellness. This is the show for people taking personal growth into their own hands. I'm your host, Brian Hogan, life coach, filmmaker, and clinical therapist. And I'm excited for today's topic because it's about survival mode, which, if you live on the same planet as me, you're probably in survival mode a fair amount of the time. And we're going to talk about what to do when we're stuck in survival mode. And at the end here, I'm going to give you 3 different, really quick nervous system tools that can help you shift back out of survival mode and into the rest and digest nervous system state where all the healing happens. So we're going to get into that. So basically what I want to do here is share with you guys how come we're stuck in survival mode, how this happened, what to do about it, and then share with you these 3 tools that you can use to very quickly move the needle back out of fight or flight or freeze into the rest and digest nervous system state. So I'm going to start really briefly with an overview. So what we want to do when we're walking around thriving, living our beautiful lives on planet Earth, is we want to be walking around in what's called the parasympathetic nervous system state, or colloquially, we know it as rest and digest. And the reason we call it rest and digest is because when we're in the parasympathetic nervous system state, we feel more calm, we feel more peaceful, we have access to this feeling of aliveness, and we actually, because of all of that, because our physiology is in a quote unquote relaxed state, we actually digest things better. So that's why it's called rest and digest. And as we do the exercises in a few minutes, I want you guys to tune into what's happening in your body, because since it's rest and digest, what you may notice as you shift, because you might even be showing up here in survival mode. I walk through my life sometimes in bouts of survival mode and don't even realize it. And as you can shift from fight or flight or freeze back into the parasympathetic nervous system response, rest and digest, you'll notice things will happen. You may start to yawn as the shift is taking place, or you may feel gurgling in your stomach. That's a really good sign, because gurgling in your stomach means you're able to digest, which means that you're back down into the parasympathetic nervous system response. You might have muscles relax, anything like that. You might have a spontaneous deep breath. We're not searching for these in the sense that we're not trying to make them happen, but they're just good markers for you. So as you do these 3 exercises in a few minutes, just notice what shifts physiologically, because that's what we're up to here, is an actual real-time physiological shift. Not just like, oh, I've got to calm down because I'm going to calm my thoughts down. No, we're going to literally intervene into the nervous system, into the vagus nerve. We're going to intervene there with these 3 exercises, and that intervention allows us on a physiological, on a biological level to shift. The stories and the thoughts don't have to shift at all at first. They're a product of this activated nervous system anyway, so they'll shift as we deactivate. So the 3 main modes of nervous system activation are: the first one is rest and digest, the ideal, the one we want to be in when nothing's going on in our lives. When we're not actually being chased by a tiger, for example, then we don't need to be in fight or flight. So rest and digest is the place of daily living. It's meant to be the place of daily living, but instead we mostly live in this fight or flight response in our daily lives, because the way this culture is and the way the world is right now, we have taught ourselves in the West to move at a breakneck pace. We've taught ourselves that our value is linked to our ability to achieve and accomplish. And so we are nervous, scared, and exhausted and running on a hamster wheel to try to stay caught up with culture. Even if it's just as simple as trying to get your kids out the door or trying not to be late to a meeting, everything seems to have such high stakes in our culture all the time. And so we've been practiced since a young age of going through our lives in fight or flight, not in rest and digest. And it's become so normal that we don't even realize. Sometimes we're just driving, and you're driving, holding the steering wheel, and your shoulders are up like this. And you could let them come down if you want to, but that necessarily won't even shift you. It's just something you're forcing your shoulders to do. But what we want to do is notice when we're pent up in fight or flight so that we can do some of these tools and actively shift. The other more insidious nervous system response, it's not insidious, it's useful for us in grave danger, but it's insidious in the sense that a lot of us live in this nervous system state all the time too and don't even realize it. We think we're calm, but actually what we are is in functional freeze, a chronic functional freeze state. So we have the green light state, rest and digest, the parasympathetic nervous system response. And then we have the yellow light state, fight or flight, which is when there's imminent danger, you either fight it or you flee. So that's why, so it's pent up. Fight or flight feels in our body like anxiety, like worry. That's what fight or flight will oftentimes feel like or lead to. And then there's the third state of the nervous system, which is the red light state. And that's the chronic functional freeze state. This is called dorsal vagal shutdown. You don't need to know any of the sciencey terms. Red light, green light, yellow light, red light is enough. Green light is rest and digest. Yellow light is fight or flight. Red light is freeze. When you're in the freeze response, what that will feel like, you may feel like you're calm, but actually what you are, if you're in the freeze response, is disconnected, maybe a little bit disassociated, numb. You're feeling like those feelings of it may almost, you may trick yourself into feeling like you're at peace, but you're really not. You're shut down. And the corollary to that, we call the fight or flight state, we say anxiety and worry a lot. But when you're in the functional freeze state, it's oftentimes described as overwhelm, or it comes from feeling overwhelmed. We can be in fight or flight, the yellow light state, when something isn't ideal, but it's manageable. As soon as something goes from being uncomfortable to unmanageable, we end up shifting into the red light state, the dorsal vagal shutdown, because it's just too much. It's like in nature, the way this shows up is if there's a predator, stalking prey, as soon as the prey gets wind of the stalking, they go into fight or flight. They get ready to either hold their own or they get the hell out of there. That's fight or flight. But then sometimes what will happen is there's a predator-prey dynamic, and the prey doesn't get the signal ahead of time. The predator's on top of them, and it's like, it's too late. And so that feels very overwhelming to the prey. And so what they do is they freeze. They go into dorsal vagal shutdown. And this is a protective response, because if they freeze, they'll fall over. They'll literally act like they're dead even. Sometimes they'll play dead. And that actually, that the correlation in your body is the same. Like your heart rate will slow. You'll feel heavy. And the reason these animals are doing that is because that freeze state, playing dead, sometimes the predator loses interest, thinks, this isn't what I thought it was. I'm out of here, because they're used to the fight. And so the dorsal vagal shutdown, the freeze state, can actually be very protective if you're in grave danger. In our lives, this might happen like if you had sexual assault in your childhood, for example. That was way too much for you, and you went into dorsal vagal shutdown, as you should have in order to survive. But now, in our adult lives, because of the words and the stories and the meaning-making machines, we can keep past traumas alive in ways that the other animals can't. And so we need tools to practice and come back out of these frozen states or these fight or flight activated states back into a feeling of calm, peace, and calm aliveness. So that's the idea, is that we want to be able to live in that state of being. And so I want to make a caveat. You want to live in that state of being, except if you are in danger. Like if there is a situation where it's appropriate to fight or flight or be in that activated state, then go ahead and, be in it. And same with the shutting down. But what I'm talking about here is how we tend to chronically live our lives either in fight or flight or freeze, and we don't even realize. We think it's normal. We think this is just the level of peace I'm ever going to have, and that's that. But actually, we're in fight or flight, or we're in freeze, and we think that's just as good as it gets, but it isn't as good as it gets. And to prove it to you, I'm going to share with you 3 tools now, each one that you can do in less than a minute, and you can try them yourself then and see how you don't actually have to stay stuck in survival mode, and how you can get out of that stuckness without even going into your story, without even going into your history at all, just by staying rooted in the present moment, noticing that you're activated or chronically frozen, and then doing one of these, trying these out and allowing to see if you have those shifts, some of those physiological markers that we talked about at the beginning, like the yawning, the muscle tension relieving, the spontaneous deep breaths, or the stomach gurgling, anything like that. So here we go. I want to share these with you. Tool number 1 is called orienting. The reason orienting works, it's like orienting is a tool that we're going to do very slowly. It'll take you about 30 to 40 seconds to do it, but I'm going to show you where it comes from. Orienting comes from this, like you're hanging out somewhere and you hear, like back in the day in ancient times, you hear a twig snap and you go, oh, what was that? Right? So you're orienting to the sound of what might have been dangerous. Or maybe you can't tell where the snap came from. And so you go, oh, 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 what the heck? Where is that? Okay. So that's like orienting in the knee-jerk kind that we do when there's real danger and we're like, what the hell? Where is that? I'm trying to track it so I can survive. So orienting as a nervous system reset tool, it's very similar. It's literally just looking around your room, but in a cadence, specific cadence with specific things in mind. So here's the cadence. You're going to do it very slow, like kind of absurdly slow. And as you do it, you really want to be taking in the sensory input from your space. So you're looking around and you're truly noticing, okay, there's nothing in that corner that causes me danger. There's nothing in front of me that's unsafe. There's nothing to the side. There's nothing behind me. And you even look up at your ceiling. You orient to your whole space. And it's even important to look under your chair, to look to both sides like that. And you just get a complete sense. And as you're doing the orienting, if you can really tune in, you may even notice your own body has impulses about like areas where it wants to make sure it lays its eyes on to make sure that it feels safe. So this isn't necessarily mental. You don't have to think about like, oh, I'm checking to see if I feel safe. You're actually allowing your sensory inputs to check so that they can feel safe, which is why we're just staying out of the story. It doesn't matter about story. And so here's how you do this. And you can do this anytime you might notice you're feeling a little bit activated. You can do it just when you sit down at your desk before you start work if you want to help yourself come into a place of more calm. Sometimes I do this first thing in the morning when I wake up. The next two that I'm going to teach you, I definitely do them in the morning. I love them. So we'll get into those in a second. But for orienting, you do it like this. Once you're in the spot, you just slowly look. Yeah, and you really take it all in. And you want to do the same and check behind all the way, really fully. And I have a chair in front of me, so I'm going to look over there to see if I can spot anything. And then you just check. And notice what happens in you physiologically. Not every exercise will work for everyone. So you'll notice whether this shifts anything for you or not. For me, I already noticed the spontaneous deep breath wanting to come out. So that's a tell for me. That's literally it. Orienting is a very slow version of looking around to see who might be behind you to attack you. But instead of looking around with that feverishness, we're looking around very slowly, not to see who's out there that's dangerous, but to confirm that we are safe, because you already know you are on a mental level. You're sitting in a room watching a Zoom call. You're fine right now. And so in this moment of being fine, you want to ground it in deeper, not just that your mind knows you're fine, while another aspect of your psyche goes around worrying and getting all anxious and figuring out your to-do list. Instead, you want to really prove to your body that you're safe in this moment. Orienting is one way to do that proof. So that's one, orienting. The second one is called VU. And this is a hokey one. So I love it, but you're not necessarily going to want to do this in the middle of the shopping mall like you can with orienting, and you also can with the push away, which I'll teach you in a minute. But VU, you're making a sound effect. So VU, it's great. Like I do it alone in my bedroom in the morning when I wake up. I also do it sometimes in the car. You can, if you're not shy, you can absolutely do it in public. It's harmless. So it's just up to you. But basically VU, what's happening is we have the vagus nerve that runs from like the brainstem, and it kind of branches out and goes all the way through the body. So the nervous system is connecting all parts of us. It's connecting all 5 of our brains. It's connecting, well, it is the 5th brain, but it's connecting the left brain, the right brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain. So all of these brains are connected by the nervous system. And so the VU is an exercise. It's a sound effect, and you're literally going to make the sound VOO, and you're going to let the sound like swirl out over your tongue, just like come out through your tongue. You're not going to do anything with your tongue. And you just say VOO. And what happens when you're saying VOO, and it's nice and slow, and I'll show you in a second, is you're allowing, there's a vibratory thing happening, and it's strengthening this vagus nerve. It's called increasing your vagal tone. And every time you do the VOO, you're giving a little workout to this vagus nerve muscle, for lack of a better way of putting it. And that's strengthening your ability to remain in the parasympathetic nervous system state. It's increasing your window of tolerance so that things that used to be unmanageable before start to be manageable but uncomfortable, because you increase your window of tolerance. So if your window of tolerance was like this, then everything over here is going to overwhelm you. It's unmanageable. But by doing the VOO and strengthening your vagal tone, you make your window of tolerance bigger and bigger each time. Slowly, it's a practice. So then suddenly these things that they were outside your window of tolerance before, but now they're inside. And so it's the same circumstance, but now it's manageable to you. So it doesn't send you into overwhelm and dorsal vagal shutdown again. So here's how you do VOO. It's really just this simple. Just take a nice deep breath in. And that's the VOO, and you just feel it vibrating your vagus nerve. You feel it, you feel the vibratory nature throughout your body, and you're strengthening vagal tone. You're becoming present to your experience, and that's how the VOO works. And the VOO can also help you. You may notice you get that spontaneous deep breath, or you get some gurgling, or your muscles relax. For me, when I do the VOO, I usually do it 3 times in a row. So you don't need to. 1 is enough, but you do whatever you want to do. Like follow the nudges from your body and your sensations and your higher awareness as you do these exercises. And then number 3 is called the push away. And sometimes the push away you can do also with the VOO. Sometimes I'll do them together. It really just depends. You follow your impulses here, but the push away is my favorite one. To be clear, when you push away, you're not pushing away your own emotions or your own experience. That would be emotional suppression. What you're doing with the push away is you're pushing away anything that doesn't belong to you. You're pushing away the overwhelm from your partner, the overwhelm from your job, the expectations of your family, anything, society's rules. You're just pushing it away. And I'm going to move this microphone while I do this. You're pushing this away to create space for yourself. So don't think of pushing away as like pushing away your experience to not feel it or numb. It's the opposite of that. You're pushing away everything that is not your experience, that is not your responsibility, so that you can be with your experience more fully. And in that acceptance of your experience, the shift happens. So here's how you do the push away. You just put your hands up by your shoulders, palms facing out like this. And then imagine that there's a big boulder in front of you. And the boulder is taller than you, like it's a giant boulder, right? And your hands are on it. And so you have to push with weight, with might, with heft. And so you just imagine this boulder. And so all the muscles in your neck, your traps, your shoulders, down through your hand, up through your fingers, they're going to be tense, right? You tense up and you push. And you do this push and you let it take you like 10 to 15 seconds. You just really slowly push away. And then when you get to the end, you can just let your arms relax. And that's the push away. So just take a deep breath in and do one more with me. And push. I already feel the impulse to take deeper breaths. Yeah. And then you just relax. And you just notice for you what happens physiologically. Could be anything, could be nothing. It's okay either way. We're taking baby steps here. So if these resonated with you, even if you didn't feel a shift in this moment today, give yourself grace and keep trying them out. This is a practice. It's like the first day you go to the gym and you do your 3 sets of 15 reps of biceps. You're not going to see a huge difference in your biceps. But if you do that every day for a month, you're suddenly going to have this very strong bicep. It's the exact same way with vagal tone and with the window of tolerance. So try these out. Check them out. Try 1, try all 3, rotate, see what works for you. Let me know in the comments what you experience as you try the 3 nervous system reset exercises. And if you think this would benefit someone that you know, then please feel free to share this episode with them, because DIY Wellness is the show for people taking personal growth in your hands. And although DIY Wellness means do it yourself, it does not mean that you have to do it all by yourself. That's what this community is about. So you're meant to do it here, do it with belonging, do it with a sense of purpose, do it with your buddies. Okay, so with that being said, thank you so much for being here, everybody. I love you and I trust you, humanity, and I will see you next Tuesday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time for another episode of DIY Wellness. Until then, keep taking personal growth into your own hands.